Hey everyone, it's Building the Dream. We just finished up an awesome interview with Empire Coffee.
One of the biggest things that we learned from them is if you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it. There's plenty of resources out there. It's never a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness.
And we also learned about their interesting dynamic as a couple while being business partners. So stay tuned and listen up. Well, welcome Evan and Ariana. Can you guys start us off with an interesting fact about yourselves?
Would you like to go first?
Yeah, I own a coffee shop and I'm left-handed.
Interesting fact about myself. I have my own book series.
Wow.
I've written 2 books and I'm working on my 3rd right now. I write fantasy.
Nice.
Yep.
Any specific type of fantasy?
It's like, specifically you'd say it's young adult fantasy. Yeah, so it's not quite the level of like a Tolkien, like a Lord of the Rings or something like that. It's young adult kind of fantasy, magic and swords kind of thing. But
Nice.
It's called the Irelicia Chronicles. You can find it on Amazon, and hopefully I'll have the 3rd book out eventually.
Good plug. I like it.
It is that
Cool. So obviously you guys are pretty young. What made you decide to go into business for yourselves so young?
Well, I'd always wanted my own. I was the kid who was always making mud pies and selling them with my lemonade.
They did try to eat them.
I never asked. But that's something I've always wanted to do. And my best friend from high school, her dad's a master roaster at Coffee in Blue.
Cool.
And that's who I got sucked into that, just kind of being adopted by their family. And she's actually my sales rep for City Row Coffee. And then I just kind of roped him into it too.
Yeah.
It's like the mafia of coffee.
One of us.
And I graduated in 2014 from UWS with a bachelor's degree in business administration. So it was kind of the direction I was already kind of going. I knew I wanted to have a business in something. I wasn't sure exactly what. So when this came along with her dream of wanting to have a coffee shop specifically, I was like, you know what? I've always been a person that if you have a dream and it's something that you really would love to do, don't put it off for 30 years. Do it. Make steps towards doing it. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna take a lot of it's gonna take a lot of intestinal fortitude to make it happen. But you have to keep pushing. And would it have been easier to do a standard 9-to-5 job for another 10 years, save up, and then do it when I'm in my 30s? It probably would have been easier, but then by then would I have the energy to do it? It's a lot of that sort of thing that you have to weigh when making that decision, and a lot of people I think put their dreams off until some unforeseen day when it will eventually make sense, but then it ends up not happening.
Yeah.
And it's for the same reason that I wrote my book series. Yeah. It's all about if I really want to do something, if I want it bad enough, I'm going to make it happen.
It's the attitude you gotta have to make it.
Mm-hmm. There's no better time than now.
We're either just too stubborn or too stupid to quit. So.
That you have to
Maybe
be.
Both are working in your favor, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was I think I was in between jobs. Was it before we were dating? Or after?
Oh, probably after.
I was complaining about I just wanted to open this stupid coffee shop and I didn't want to work for anybody anymore. And he was like, well, why? What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't actually know.
It's kind of the line of questioning that I ask people a lot, because sometimes people they'll tell me what they ultimately want with their life. I want to own this type of shop, or I want to go to Europe, or I want to go to these, and I always just ask, well, what's stopping you? Oh, it's money, it's time. It's like, well, the thing is that if you keep putting up excuses, it's never going to happen by design. So you have to have some kind of plan, or your dream just falls by the wayside. And so when she had started to tell me about what her dream was and how she wanted to have a coffee shop, we immediately, within like a couple of months of having that conversation, we put together a plan of how we were going to do it. We reached out to people that were going to be able to help us build a business plan, to reach out to investors. It was you have to start with really small attainable goals.
Mm-hmm.
And once you can start those and make a little bit of progress at a time, it took us, 2 years to actually get this started. It takes time, but every day that you make progress, it's going to feel like you did something with your day,
It's always a good feeling.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a very validating feeling to make that, even if you're doing your day-to-day job, and when you're not doing your job, you're making slow steps towards that dream of yours, and it feels great. You go to sleep going, well, I made a difference in my life today.
I really like the way that you had brought up that a lot of people bring up roadblocks about, oh, I don't have time, I don't have money. And my personal opinion is it's always a lack of resourcefulness, not a lack of resources.
Exactly.
If you want it, you'll go get it.
I mean, starting this business, we started really with nothing. I'm 26, she's 23. We were even younger when we first started the business,
Obviously.
because we're a year in, and then it was, I think, 2 years before that we actually, 2016, when we actually started putting plans in motion, and we had nothing back then. We were I was just out of college, and she was working as a barista, and it's like, we didn't exactly have resources, but you make up for it, like you said, in resourcefulness.
Mm-hmm.
Use what resources you can.
And so, an interesting dynamic here is that you guys are in a relationship while owning a business. How does that work? Because a lot of people say don't go into business with your spouse. Do you guys see it as a challenge, or do you guys see it as an empowerment to work harder?
I think it helps that we were friends long before we ever started dating. And by that, it took me 2.5 years to grow the balls to say, hey, I think you're cute, we should date. and then I, hooked him, hey, you cannot start business with me. But,
now you're stuck with me.
That was the whole impetus.
But, so we work well just as general friends, and we were joking the other day, you know what, owning a business is hard, and if, this is the hardest thing we're doing, marriage would be a breeze. We're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
And I think the argument is in a way sort of backwards, because it's you should know your spouse before attempting a business, because you should know your relationship. You should know a lot about, first of all, know what you're getting into, and know that there are going to be a lot of stressful days. And if your relationship, for whatever reason, doesn't handle stress well, a business is not going to be for you. You're on that train heading straight off the hill. That's a lot of relationships do fail when you go into business together sometimes, because of the fact that you don't always have that sort of that glue holding you together to begin with. So.
That's not just
and that's really with anything, whether it's starting a business or getting married, having kids, whatever. When you're doing these things together, you have to really understand the person before you go into these things, because the minute that you just decide, I kind of like you, you're not as much of a jerk as a lot of people I know. I tolerate you. Let's jump into the deep end of this pool. That's a really bad way to go forward.
Right. Not only relationships are stressful, but business is stressful too. So you've got twice as much weight bearing down on you.
Yeah, and we have a really good separation of powers, or so to speak, at the business, that we don't step on each other's toes almost at all, and we can kind of play on our strengths and help each other's weaknesses, which is the way it should be in both relationships and in business.
Mm-hmm. He really likes spreadsheets.
My guy.
Yeah, you like them too? Yeah, I love spreadsheets.
The guy who makes spreadsheets for fun.
Yes, I do.
I'll
admit that.
I do not do that.
So perfect balance there.
Yeah, and I can make them, but I can't make them as nice, so I leave it to the expert.
Got all the pivot tables and formulas. And
Oh yeah, I do it all.
Color coded.
Color coded. Everyth's got to be color coded. Yeah.
Images.
Anyone tells her could you make a spreadsheet? She's like, Evan, I'll do it. And I'm like, yes, please send it to me.
Cool. So, tell us about your demographic. Who are you trying to reach with Empire Coffee?
Well, we really sort of, as a general matter, we're just sort of looking to provide the best cup of coffee that you've ever had, because we offer so many roasts from around the area that we're bound at some point to have a coffee that you really like. If you're a coffee lover, that you are going to have a coffee at one point or another that you're going to love. So that's the sort of general idea. But as it's turned out in the first year, we have a varied kind of demographic. I mean, we've had older folks come in here that enjoy the atmosphere, the coffee. We've had a lot of students that have come in because they're just looking for a study space. Business professionals. I mean, it's across the entire spectrum. I mean, I couldn't even put a pin on any specific demographic.
Okay.
But it's one thing in common: they all love coffee.
Right. So and you kind of touched on it a little bit there, but what differentiates Empire from your average run-of-the-mill, chalkboard coffee shop?
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit with the chalkboard things. With our menus and with our decor, I mean, it's not the underground kind of look. It's not the
Kitschy.
Yeah.
It's not the traditional kind of like Seattle style like coffee shop. It's not really what we were looking for. We're kind of doing the European model a little bit, where it's a little higher class. It's you can get a reasonable cup of coffee or a cup of coffee at a reasonable price without sacrificing sort of the high class atmosphere.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we like in terms of the atmosphere. But then we also, like I said, we offer a number of coffee roasts from around the region. We have coffee from Hayward, from the cities. We were looking into one at Bayfield at one point. I mean, we're always looking for everything around the area, so that's kind of differentiates us a little bit, because the usual coffee shop just has one. They have one company, they'll stick with it throughout the entirety of their business, and so people will come in. If they don't like it, they're not coming back.
Yeah.
Whereas if you come in and you don't like our coffee one day, come back the next day or the next week.
We'll have something different.
We'll have something different. You might like it.
I like that tap style approach to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely something you don't see every day.
And it was really great. The coffee shop out in Bayfield, Big Water, they're no longer in business, but they were the ones who actually gave us the idea, because we were like, well, we really want to try your coffee, but like, we don't want to have
Commit
to
to it.
commit to one. And they were like, you don't have to. Why not just have all of them? And I'm like, oh my god.
You're right.
And so you don't really think about it. It's like, wait, hold on. Why do I have to be exclusive about a coffee? It's like, I know some companies like that, but by and large, we found in the coffee industry that there's really not a whole lot of exclusivity that people require. A lot of the roasters we've been to have. They're really positive about it. They said, like, yeah, put us up against the competition. We're cool with it. It's kind of a different culture, to be honest.
The coffee industry, just in general, it's not all about money. If you're in coffee for the money, you're not in it for the right reasons.
Business.
Because I mean, it's all about relationships with the growers and the roasters and the buyer. Everyone is involved, and everyone cares about what they're doing. And so, like the guys over at Alacap and City Girl, like, yeah, bring the bootstrap guys, and we love those guys. Great, I think that you'd be competitors. Like, yeah, we are. Great. Let's bring them all in. Have a party.
Yeah.
And honestly, at some point, I really would like to get all of as many roaster people up here as possible. Maybe have like an event, like a flight night.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool.
Yeah.
Instead of beer flights, like, hey, here's what this Ethiopian tastes like versus this one versus this one.
Yeah.
Invite all of them together for one night of coffee. I mean, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Most people don't get 6 cups of coffee, so they don't get to try them all side by side.
Yeah.
That'd be wired.
Like Duluth Coffee does cuppings every Thursday, maybe every other. I'm not sure how often they do it. I know it's on Thursdays, and that's actually really cool, because then you can go in and be like, oh, this is what literally, because a Kenya's not going to taste like a Rwanda versus anything. So it's just really, no coffee is the same, and I think that's really cool.
But you definitely have a big enough space to host a party like that.
Yes, we do.
And speaking of the space, it's my understanding that this is a historical building, and there's some challenges that come to when you try to make it your own and differentiate. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so with it being a historic building, there are some rules in regards to what we're allowed to affix to the building, actual alterations to the building structure itself in that respect. So it's been a little bit of a struggle for us, because we don't have the same level of signage that we would like to have, when you're driving down the street, you'd like to see a great big glowing neon sign that says, Empire Coffee, come in here, we have great coffee, but we actually are not allowed to have that. The most that we've been able to do so far, we have letters scrawled above the top that says Empire Coffee.
That's the only place I knew that was here.
Yeah, they're like this big, and like we have our flag that we put out, which that's I think like 5 feet tall or something. We're maybe going to get a bigger one, but that's the extent to which we were able to actually put signage out without breaking the the historical code. So it's we're looking into maybe working with the historical society just to get another sign out there that we can put maybe on the corner, because there has been historical precedence for that. So, but beyond that, we look across the street, we see VIP's giant orange sign. It's across like half the front of their building, and we'd love to have something like that, but we're not allowed to. So it's been a little bit of a hurdle.
And I'm sure that really affects your foot travel too, because if people aren't looking up at the sign or looking in the window, they really don't know you're here.
Yeah, and it affects foot traffic, but it even affects a lot of auto traffic as well, because of the fact that when you're driving by on your way to work, early in the morning, even if you're thinking about coffee, you're not going to think a lot of the times to look over when there's no signage of any kind. There's a little glowing sign that says open, but you don't know what it's for.
Yeah.
71 Tower, sometimes you get a little bit of a tunnel vision. I'm going and I'm going now.
To work, that's the end of it.
No stopping.
I'm guilty of that myself.
Yep. So that's been a little bit of a challenge for us, but every day we try to find little things that we can do to get our name out there. It's just bring the people in, or we've tried to do some things to bring the business to the consumers. We've started doing deliveries, for example, which is something that I don't think anyone else offers in the area for coffee. So it's that thing when problems arise, you can either you can collapse or you can pivot. You can find a solution around it, and that's one of the ways that we're trying to do it. If people can't find where we are, we're going to bring the business to them.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That approach again, resourcefulness.
Yep, I do my best. Well, we do our best.
I don't know, I'm just cute.
So who does what on a daily basis? Like, who handles what part of the business?
I'm all house, front house, back.
In the
I'm
shop?
pretty much always on location.
Yep.
Until my baristas kick me out for being here for too long. But I handle orders and dealing with the general public and scheduling events and having vendors and stuff like that.
Okay.
Scheduling employees.
Pretty much just all that, the people part.
But yeah, the day-to-day stuff that has to happen every day.
Yeah, if we need a grocery run, I'm gonna zip over to Super One real quick and be back in a couple minutes. Usually that's usually me, unless it's a pinch, and then hey honey, got a half and half. Please get some. That didn't happen.
No, it happens all the time. Every single day.
Well, it's good that you're selling enough coffee that you're running out. It's got to be
Exactly.
positive.
And we've sort of given each other like the titles, like she's the CEO, and as far as I'm concerned, the COO, the operations officer. That's kind of the extent of what she does, which is pretty much almost everything in house. For me, it's a little bit more of a diminished role. I consider myself the CFO. I do kind of the books behind the scenes. I crunch numbers. I do payroll. I'm making sure that there are numbers behind the dream. So
The spreadsheets too.
yeah, and I have spreadsheets. I have plenty of them. They're lovely.
They say hi.
Yeah, they see.
So what are like the day-to-day operations of running Empire Coffee? What do you have to do, like, from when you get here in the morning until you leave?
Making sure that everything is prepped for the day, like just sandwich making supplies, coffee that's on tap. I usually don't start a pot of coffee till maybe 6:30 unless someone comes in before that, just so that it's fresh when they get here.
Yeah.
And just kind of doing general inventory, catching up emails, because as a business, you never realize how many emails you get until you are a business.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There are a lot of them. But just
And they're not all useful.
No, No.
No, of course not.
Jump spam.
Yeah, you have to
Like to
really have a
talk-
good filtering program.
I'd like to talk about your social media. Thank you. I'm fine on my social media, but thank you for your interest.
Yeah.
Just making sure that stuff's here, and if I don't have things that I need for the day, or like if milk's running low, if it's not an emergency, it'll be on my to-do lists.
Yeah.
Scheduling employees is probably the most. I used to be a logistics major over at UWS, and that part is kind of fun.
Just figuring out where everybody
Figuring out
fits in.
how will you work with everyone's schedule and with 3 employees it's not that hard.
But you also have to weigh it against like what sort of things do I need to get done today in relation to when employees are going to be here, because because she can't exactly leave the shop to go get milk
if there's no one else
if
here.
there's no one else here.
Or-
So
Sorry, we're closed. Be back in 5.
Yeah.
No, you can't get your coffee now. I'm out of milk, so see ya. There are riots in the street. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I want it now.
People are very picky and very angry about their coffee. They can't get it. So.
Oh,
Well, I mean, they're tired.
It's a
yeah.
lifeblood.
They need their caffeine.
I do like dealing with regulars. I love
Yeah.
having my regulars.
Well, and that's
They
part
have
of having a good
relationship.
business too.
Yeah,
is you
it's
get to
fun.
know
I'm like,
people.
hey, how you doing? It's a large iced coffee with extra 2 shots of espresso with 2 shots on the side and a shot of chocolate, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
She's got it rung up by the time they've even reached the register.
That's the nice thing
Yeah.
about having a long watch. By the time they hear, I'm like already like, okay, your total's $3.69.
Yeah, and we don't make it a walk of shame or anything. Some businesses they're because they're longer. I mean, it's an awkward walk. We don't make it a walk of shame. If we can, we'll have you rung up by the time you get up here if we know you, and if we don't,
We've
we're
already
talking
said
halfway
hello.
through. Yeah.
By the time you've opened the door, like, hey, how's it going? Like, I have no idea who you are, but I will.
Yeah.
So,
And see, those are things that separate businesses. I really like how you guys differentiate yourself from the space.
yeah.
And speaking of differentiating yourself, let's talk about the way your ordering process works. Because I was really impressed when I came in yesterday and found out that I wanted a dirty child.
A lot of, I mean, we were talking about earlier, if you go into a Starbucks and if you hold up that line, you are on the top of everyone's hit list. And you might not know what a caramel macchiato is. Which, by the way, at Starbucks, a macchiato is not the same as what a normal coffee shop macchiato is. It's not. They're not remotely the same.
It just sounds cool.
It really
That's the whole thing.
You put a vaguely Italian sounding name on the drink.
Yeah.
Add an O at the end, you're good.
It's a fancy on something.
But I mean, so a lot of people, they don't actually know what they want, and so usually, literally a game of 20 questions of like, okay, let's start up. Do you want hot or cold? How caffeinated do you want to be? And usually, when people don't know the answer to that, I'm like, do you want to be like lightly buzzed or like vibrating to the walls, sounds kind of like how caffeinated do you want to be? If you don't want to be caffeinated at all, you might be in the wrong place, but I probably have something for you too.
Because we do have Italian sodas and we do have other things that are non-caffeinated. So I mean, if you don't want caffeine at all, we also have decaf.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, we whittle it down to what is your perfect, like a dirty chai. Like, you might have never had a dirty chai.
I haven't.
You hadn't been like, okay, well, let's just narrow it down. Like, there's a gal who comes in here, she gets a white chocolate mango Americano. Would I normally have ever put those two together? Absolutely not.
I don't think you can get mango anywhere else.
we've got it.
It's a very unique ingredient.
But
to
like,
coffee.
I mean, there's enough experimentation that we encourage our baristas to test stuff out within reason. Obviously,
Yeah.
no pickle lattes, but
That's vetoed.
Yeah.
No, that's vetoed forever.
never again. No pickle anything.
No pickles in drinks ever again.
Yeah.
No,
Again.
never
There was
again.
a one time.
April Fools, we had him drink a
Pickle soda, yeah. I had to drink it because I made a challenge that because we made it look like it was our new drink for April Fool's Day. We're just like, we got this new pickle Italian soda. Come in and get yours today. And then at the end, there was a little disclaimer that we basically said like, well, if this gets 100 likes, then Evan has to drink this.
Because he
And
was
it
like,
did.
he was like, put on there, tell them don't do it on camera. And I'm like, you you want 100? Like, are you sure you don't want to
I mean,
boost it a little bit? It's like, no, I won't get to 100. Within like 2 hours,
Yeah,
it
I
was
got
over
You were
like
drinking the pickle soda.
I was like, gosh darn it. And you see, the worst part of it is I don't even really like pickles. I'm not even a pickle person, so like, I mean, I'm really selective. Like, if I'm gonna eat like pickles, it's gonna have to be like little small bits, and it's gonna have to probably be on a burger.
Yeah.
But so like when I had a great big actual pickle in there, and I'm like, it's almost entirely pickle juice, and I'm like,
and club soda.
this is not going to be fun. This is going to be miserable, and it was. It lived up to the awful hype.
Well,
So.
and one of our baristas who actually really likes pickles came in on her day off to drink one with him. In some,
She was great. She was great. She kept me company.
Did she enjoy it?
No.
Okay.
She loves pickles. Like she told me she just sits at home and just eats pickles sometimes. And I was like, well, maybe she'll like it. No. She's like, no, it was just as miserable when she did.
I think the carbonation is what we're doing.
God, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, carbonated
Also,
pickle
hers
juice.
had chunks in it, which was also not good.
Yeah.
Okay, never again.
Nope. So no pickle drinks ever.
Keep that in mind. You cannot get a pickle latte here.
No. I'm okay with that.
Not even if you say please.
No.
That is the only drink we will not serve you.
So you guys have been in business for about a year now. So that's plenty, and obviously there were 2 years of planning prior to that. That's plenty of time to have some hiccups or some inspirational stories. What's kind of a cool story that you guys have had throughout this 3-year time period? Either like something that you struggled to get through, like some kind of challenge that was really hard to figure out, or something that went really, really well.
So I think one of the bigger like challenges that we kind of had that not everyone sort of foresee is that especially when you're like our age, there is kind of a different experience when it comes to family. Because and I'm being very careful of how I put this. Yeah, I'm being very careful how I put this.
Mom, I love you.
It's a different experience with family when you're our age, because I mean if you're 53 and you were like, well, I've worked my entire life, I have enough money to start a business on my own, I mean you're gonna get a lot of people that are just really excited for you and whatever, and not to say that family wasn't excited for us, specifically. I think there was a little bit more of a sentiment at times that it was well, it's a cool idea, but have you considered law school? Or like
selling your soul to a corporation for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Have you considered?
I think that's something like that was a little bit of a challenge for someone who's our age. When you're looking to get into a business, is that you do have a little bit of that dynamic where you're an adult, you are fully able to make your own rational decisions, but you still have a family that it sees you as you're still kind of a college student. You're still kind of you're a young adult. It's a very understandable sentiment. It's a very much like it's the same kind of sentiment with when you're a young adult and you go to your mom and you're just like, hey, look, I got this tattoo, and they're just like, I don't know if that was the best decision for you to be making right now. It's kind of it's kind of a similar kind of thing where we kind of had that a little bit, where we were saying we have a plan for this. We have it's our dream to do this. We want to get this business started really early in our lives so that if it does work out, then we can kind of stake our lives on this, for the long term. And I think there was obviously a lot of disagreement as to how that was going to manifest in our lives. It was is this really the best thing for you to be doing right now? Are you sure you shouldn't wait 10 years to do this? Have you considered med school? Have you considered all these other things? And so that was a challenge at first.
Yeah.
For sure.
Especially for me, because I went to UWS, but I didn't finish. I decided that this wasn't really my thing, which was surprising. I never thought myself, as a high school student graduating, like, oh, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna do 2 full years and just realize, hey, college isn't a thing that's gonna work for me. I'd much rather just dive right into something that I'm good at.
Yeah.
And it was kind of hard, kind of talking my family around don't think I ever actually fully convinced them. I just kind of did it. And, they just realized, like, oh, she's doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can't really tell her to go get a degree now because she's doing the thing.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you are an adult. You know, anyone that's in our situation, you know, you are an adult. You can make your own decisions, but their criticism is valid. Their criticism is valid because they're trying to look out for your best interests, and they want you to have a really solid plan before you jump into this. And they're correct about that.
Yeah.
And I would say the same thing to my kids. If they were to, you know, say, you know, 20 years from now, whatever, you know, I have kids that are, you know, in college. They're just getting out of college in 25 years. And they say, I really want to start a business. I'm probably going to say virtually the same thing that my parents did. I'm going to say, are you sure you want to do this right now? You know, but I might be a little more lenient on it in the respect that, well, this is what I did. They're probably operating under a, you know, a certain sense of, you know, monkey see, monkey do. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe they're just trying to imitate me, which
Flattered.
could be worse, I guess.
There's
But
worse
it's,
robots.
you know, I guess the way that I see it is that you could have a lot worse dreams as a 20-something-year-old than to want to start a business. You know? You could be going to Colombia and hanging out in the rainforest and, you know, eating leaves or something. I don't know.
That's a little more productive.
I don't know. This feels a little more productive.
I don't know. It could be very lucrative.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of leaves those would be. But
Don't worry about it.
Anything to get the views on YouTube.
That's
yeah, yeah, that's another one. I feel like there are better dreams than trying to get a lot of hits on YouTube by, I don't know, jumping off of a balcony or something.
Or eating Tide Pods.
Yeah.
Downing it with a bottle of bleach.
Oh, yeah.
That's a cool thing though, because they're looking out for you, but they don't believe in you as much as you believe in you. And look at, here we are, right?
Yeah.
Here's the coffee shop.
Yeah, and so you'll at least in our case, we've always felt that our family had our best interests at heart. That was never in question. It was just a matter of priorities, really. Because I mean, in a lot of cases, when we would talk to them, they say, "Well, maybe you should prioritize something else a little more right now." It's kind of the opportunity cost of the moment. Of, do you want to do this now? Maybe you could do it later, and
Push it on the back burner.
yeah, put it
off
on the
stove.
back burner, and then just sort of push it off the stove at a certain point. Maybe you'll forget about it, but no,
Yeah.
we're a little too ambitious for that.
And for me, I mean, if I did go back and get my degree, I would be right where I started, several $1,000s in debt, and nothing to really show for it except for a piece of paper.
Yeah. You're already in the cut.
I'm already-
So
You should be getting largely the same degree that I already have. So.
I mean, yeah, you didn't start really using your degree until, you know.
In terms of practical application, I'd say
Yeah.
yeah. I'd say it didn't come into a more practical sense than when I became here, or when I came to actually start the shop. I mean, because a lot of employers don't always look at the college degree. You know, they're looking at more experience than anything, and that's another really important thing about owning your own business when you're young, because even if it doesn't work out, say you're in business for 4 years and it completely crashes, and you know, you crash and burn, whatever, you have to get back into the job market again. I mean, you're going to show you have serious work ethic and ambition on your resume by saying that you owned your own business for 4 years, and you know, you stuck it out. You know, you didn't give up after 6 months when you realized it was actually hard. You know, you stayed with it for a while.
And that was my favorite sentiment every time we would tell someone, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be opening a business." Well, you know, it's gonna be a lot of hard work. You know, you're gonna be working real hard. Really?
I never thought
I
that.
had no idea. I better go find a job where I don't have to work hard at all, ever. I'm not sure. I don't think that even exists.
No, probably not.
No. But I mean, like, yeah, we know it's going to be hard. We know exactly what we're signing, or at least a semblance of what we're signing up for. But we're also, solidly Midwestern, and we've got this stupid work ethic that doesn't let us quit. So.
yeah.
Speaking of the not quitting work ethic, what are you guys having coming down the pipes for Empire Coffee?
Well, I mean, we're a homegrown venue this year. So that's going to be really
Awesome.
Thank
exciting.
you.
Yeah,
We're
that's
one of
awesome.
the few, we might be the only family friendly.
I think we are, at least for the moment. Yeah.
So, that's, we don't have a really late show. There are apartments upstairs, so we can't go super late.
Gotta be respectful.
Not that we'd be throwing like a rager or anything.
Yeah, and if we got families in here, they're probably not going to want to stay here until 3 in the morning. Anyway,
We
so-
don't want to be here till
No, we don't want to be
I
here
already
until 3 in the
got
morning.
enough
Exactly. But we've got that. We've got art shows coming up. Currently, we've got George Morrison up on our walls through Homegrown. Actually, we've got another one coming up on May 9th. She's a local artist. She actually works at KUWS, so she's a student. So we're just trying to bring in as many events that we can. We have pop-up shops with Joe Polishek, who's a local photographer, once a month. He's kind of like our main guy. Usually the second or third Saturday of the month, we'll have him in here for the whole day. He takes up like a third of the shop with his office. Yeah, he just hangs out. He has a tab open. He orders like 10 brevets.
He's wired.
Just through the roof. But so stuff like that. There is some plans in the work of having like a marketplace pop up for several small businesses, just so that they have essentially a storefront that they wouldn't normally have otherwise. Because as we have found out, opening a storefront is hard.
Yeah.
Just in general, and if we can give them some help, anything to help boost the local economy helps us.
Right. And we have a large space. This for a coffee shop. We are a very large coffee shop, so we want to be able to not only use that space for us, we want also this to be sort of the people's space as well. If you have an idea for a pop-up shop, whether, we've had essential oils in here, someone selling essential oils. We've had, Joe Polishek come in. We've had a lot of ideas of people that want to come in. They want to, have their own little storefront here, and it works well for everyone. We get if they have a following of people that really like their products, they're coming in, they'll check out our coffee. Or vice versa, people that really love our coffee might go, hey, look at this shop that's here today. Let's check out what they have to offer. We want to have that on a more regular basis. So we've gotten on a really good schedule with Joe. He's here once a month. It's always on a Saturday. But it's usually the third Saturday of the month. So we have him then, and then we're always looking to schedule people with a little more regularity if we can. We're trying to start to do music every Thursday. We've got one less guest here tomorrow. We've also got another musical guest we've got scheduled in mid-May. It's I think exactly 1 month. 1 month from now. We've got what kind of music was it again? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Next one.
The one on May 17th. 16. Wow.
I'm on top of things. I think I'm also drawing a blank.
Well, they had guitar and they had trumpet. She said,
Yeah.
It's like a ska band?
No, I think she does a lot of jazz covers.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
A lot of crowd favorites and just a very wide variety of music just in general, which is always a really good thing. And she's a trumpet player, and we're trumpet players.
Yeah.
I actually played trumpet in high school.
Oh, did you? Yes. There's a personality to being a trumpet player. There's a personality.
We met in UWS Symphonic Band.
Oh, okay.
That's where a lot of our friends are from.
Yep.
So,
That's really good.
but yeah, a lot of music, art events, just in general.
We're always looking to include small bands. If you've also got we all the time we get people reaching out to us saying, I have my art that I really love my art. I've been, working on improving my art skills for a few years, but I've never put it out into the public before. I'd really like to maybe have it at your coffee shop because I like your coffee shop, and maybe I could make a little money by selling some of my art.
We have the space.
We have so much wall space. So we want to fill our walls with your art, So keep it coming.
You hear that? Hit them up.
Yep. Send us an email or a message on Facebook. We love having more art here. If you've got an idea for a pop-up shop, or if you have a small band or something like that, reach out to us. We want to have all these things here. we want to be a public forum.
What are all your socials so that they can find you and send you requests and DMs?
We are very active on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
We respond to messages pretty quickly.
Within
So just-
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Look for Empire Coffee. You'll find it.
Yeah.
Superior, Wisconsin.
Can't miss us.
Cool. So do you guys have like any business tips or advice for people in similar situations that maybe looking back that you would want to tell yourself?
There are a lot of logistics to starting a business. I mean, the biggest advice I have for anyone that wants to start a business that's our age, I mean, be ready for the most tumultuous time of your life. I mean, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a ton of work. Everyone's going to tell you that.
Everyone's going to tell you how you should be running your business.
Oh
And all
Yeah.
you got to do is say, thanks, I'll take that into consideration.
Yeah, everyone's going to have their advice, but I mean, stick to your business plan. You need to have a really solid plan of how you're going to do this. Don't be afraid to, pivot a little bit if things don't work out. I mean, the amount of times that things just, didn't go as planned, and then we had to kind of, we had to do a detour, and we had to, really think on our feet. I mean, that's going to happen a lot. But
Way more than you want.
But really, you have to be able to put in the time for it. It's a lot of work, a lot of determination that has to be made for it.
It's like being a parent of a newborn.
Yeah.
Literally, there's
You have
almost
to nurture it
there's
and
no difference.
take care of it,
almost.
and it wakes up at 3 a.m. screaming.
I think one thing I wish I had known. I mean, we went into this with resources. I reached out to an old advisor in the business department. I was like, "Hi, here's what I want to do. You're a smart person who has been around and knows things because you're a bona fide adult. How can you help? Please help." And he directed us to the Small Business Development Center, and without them, we wouldn't have been here at all. So there are resources out there. Use them. Like, there's nothing wrong with asking for
You
help.
don't have to do this all by yourself. I mean, it would be way too much for a single person or even two people to make this all happen just on your own. I mean, use the resources that are out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, there are a
Especially
lot
for
of
free.
the biggest things that I would recommend people to look into. It's going to be different for every industry, but look into licensure.
Yeah.
Make sure you understand how business insurance works.
Taxes.
Make sure you have at least some kind of accountants that you can talk to, just in case you have questions, even like your first year. I mean, I'm a CFO, and I mean, some days I feel like I've blundered through this whole first year, after doing all my taxes, and they're like, you did a good job, Evan, and I'm like, that was the most validating thing in the world. When they said, you actually did a halfway decent job, I'm like, oh God, oh my gosh, I thought by about month 3, I'm like, I'm in so much trouble by tax time. But no, it turned out okay, but use your resources, and just, it's a lot of the little things you don't think about that are gonna come up. When the health, you run into like health codes, and they say, hey, by the way, you have to have this specific type of pipe or whatever that has to be running from this to the other. You have to have X number of sinks. You have to have all these things.
4 inches of clearance from the ground.
Yeah, like the stuff you don't think about, and that's why I really encourage anyone who wants to start a business to talk to as many resources as you possibly can, because they may know a lot more than you do, and they're going to be able to clear some of those things up so you don't have to think about it, especially after it's already too late.
Also, look into, if you don't already, getting a very good chiropractor.
Yeah, you're saying a lot.
Not stress that enough. I mean, just in general. Yeah.
Love
I think
stress.
I got sick once since we've been open, which was actually really impressive because due to just general lack of sleep and running on a very low battery that would recharge maybe like halfway. I got sick, what was it, 2-3 months ago or whatever? It was the first time I've been sick in like 2 years. Which I was impressed because I thought I was going to get sick within like the first month. But yeah, taking care of yourself is a really important thing. Which is why my baristas kick us out on Sundays. We're not actually allowed in here.
And you definitely, and that's another thing that always comes up is that when people are talking to you about starting a business, It can come a little bit from people that have started a business, but also a lot of it comes from people who have never had a business before. They'll say, well, you're going to have to be there like 24 hours a day. Like,
The only employee.
Yeah, you're the only employee. You're just going to have to suck it up and be there for 20 hours. Like, you're just going to have to make it work. And it's like, yes, some of that is true. You're going to be putting in at least 10-hour days, depending on your business. But I mean, it's going to be a lot of really long days. That's true. But you have to take care of yourself or you are going to burn out so fast. I mean, designate one day, like that's what we did. We designated one day per week where we didn't come in. Yeah. And we've, get some really solid employees that you trust a lot and let them kind of run things if you can trust them. Let them kind of run things for that one day so you can get a little rest and recuperation. It's going to do wonders for your health and your relationship. Yeah. That's the bigger one, because, if you're always just working 100% of the time, you're never seeing each other, you're never talking about anything but work, and then you never get to go out anymore, you never get to do anything. You have to have a work-life balance, and yes, people will always tell you, well, your work-life balance is going to be gone, you're going to go 100% business. Well, that's a good way to either A, die, or B, you're going to hate your business so much after a year that you just decide you don't want to do it anymore, which happens a lot, actually. People just decide, I hate this, I don't want to do it anymore, and that's part of the reason why businesses, a lot of them fail in their first year, because they don't want to do it anymore because they have that mindset.
It is really hard.
It's really hard.
This is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Which makes the rest of our 60-something years look like a breeze.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a nuclear apocalypse in the near future.
Yeah.
Just in general, I think we will be fine.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, I really appreciate you guys sitting down with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is an awesome coffee shop. Come check out
and
Empire
thanks so much for
Coffee
talking to us.
Absolutely. Yeah.